The story starts with the main character named Aram, who is a teenager who is a super poor midfielder Sebatang Kara, who every day always lives life in a perfunctory way. Because Aram has no place to live and often suffers because he has no money to buy food. Long story short, in the evening, because that day Aram still didn't get food, he finally chose to eat together with Yuri's group and also Juliana. While the group was enjoying their meal, suddenly something happened that made Aram curious. And it was one of Yuri's group members, whose name was Fina, who turns out to be carrying a book of gods, which has the ability to know the state of the world. The book is called Chain Chronicle. Each page of the book will continue to blacken, according to the territory ruled by the King of Darkness. And every time that happens, there will be a huge amount of energy coming out of the book. There was some conversation between the two groups of heroes and Aram about Chain Chronicle. The next morning, the hungry Aram was walking around the market and heard the screams of a woman being held hostage by a man. Aram, who heard the scream, immediately ran and immediately helped and managed to save the woman. After the fight, suddenly an arms dealer named Dust approached Aram and gave a gift in the form of a very good knife. In the afternoon, while Aram was practicing his new weapon, Bruckhardt suddenly came and immediately accused Aram of stealing the new knife. However, Aram, who did not accept his accusation, tried to explain until an argument broke out between Aram and Bruckhardt. Then not long after, in the midst of their argument, suddenly Juliana came with Yuri and one of her group members, and immediately asked about the cause of their quarrel. Hearing Juliana's question, Bruckhardt immediately explained his accusation to Aram. Right after Bruckhardt explained the accusation, suddenly Dust came and explained everything to Juliana and the others about the knife that had been given to Aram. Dust's defense, making the accusations Aram accepted, is finally over. The next morning, Aram and Yuri's group were preparing to travel to a place for a group of magicians, led by three of Yuri's acquaintances, named Derma, Fatima, and Melchior. The reason they went to that place was none other than because Yuri wanted to meet with Fatima and asked for her help to find out the location of Verika's whereabouts. Because Fatima herself is a magician who has great abilities in terms of tracking someone's whereabouts. At the time of preparation, Bruckhardt also joined the trip of this Yuri group. It happened because of Juliana's request. Besides Bruckhardt, it turns out that there are two more people who also joined the group's journey. Namely, the first is a woman who is a powerful magician named Aludra, while the other was a formidable knight named Vorg. After their preparations were complete, finally Yuri and several people who had just joined the group finally moved to start their journey to their destination. At the beginning of the trip, the people who are members of this group really enjoy it. Until one day, there was an incident that made Aram and the others have to try to save Bruckhardt, who was being invited by a subordinate of the Dark Lord named Irenaeus, so that Bruckhardt also became a subordinate of the Dark Lord. But after desperately trying to save Bruckhardt, their efforts ended in vain. Because Bruckhardt accepted Irenaeus' invitation and immediately tried to fight Yuri and Aram's group. Satisfied with their resistance, the army of darkness retreated, taking Bruckhardt with them. While knowing Bruckhardt's resignation, they certainly can't do anything about it, and chose to contact and inform Juliana through a communication device about the condition of Bruckhardt, who was now a subordinate of the King of Darkness. After contacting Juliana, the group finally decided to continue the journey and arrived at their destination the next day. But when they just arrived, they were greeted by Derma's subordinates, Fatima and Melchior. While they were having a great power struggle, Fatima suddenly stopped their fight and immediately invited the group to enter her residence. After arriving inside, without further ado, Yuri immediately asked about the whereabouts of Verika to Fatima, who was known as the Hermit of Destiny, or a magician who knew many things. However, Fatima, who heard Yuri's question, couldn't do much because Fatima herself didn't know much about Verika. In addition, Fatima also asked Yuri that Yuri and her group immediately go to a very important location. The location was named the Border of the Labyrinth. Hearing Fatima's request, Yuri finally agreed to this and immediately made preparations to go to the intended location from Fatima. At the same time, suddenly Irenaeus came with an army of darkness and made the battle even more chaotic. The three groups united in one battle. In addition, during the battle, it turned out that Irenaeus kept teasing Yuri and intended to make him a subordinate of the Dark Lord. Yuri, who basically didn't want it, tried desperately to survive the influence. Until finally there was an incident, which made Yuri accidentally stabbed one of its members and made him lose consciousness, and was successfully influenced by Irenaeus, and was invited to become a subordinate of the King of Darkness. The three-sided battle was still continuing, until finally Irenaeus decided to withdraw by bringing Yuri to his headquarters. In the evening, Aram goes to Shuza and asks him to return the Chain Chronicle, so the two of them get into an argument. Even though Aram has tried, but Shuza still doesn't want to return it. The next day, Aram, together with the Furball and Fiona, decided to continue their journey to Fairy Island. But in the same morning their group again had to be separated, because one of the members who had previously been stabbed by Yuri suffered serious injuries and had to be taken immediately for treatment, while the subordinates previously assigned by Melchior to assist the expedition finally chose to return because he wanted to report on what had happened to Yuri. Arriving at that place, they immediately tried to meet Yggdra, but they were instead blocked by Yuri and the army of darkness who suddenly appeared in front of them. Aram gets help from two people named Gilbert and Vieta, who intends to hold Yuri there and let Aram go to immediately meet Yggdra. After successfully meeting him in a hurry, Yggdra opened his chronicle and immediately brought Aram and Fina into the chronicle dimension. In that dimension Aram meets Baltazari and asks for his help in order to have the power to be able to defeat the King of Darkness. Not long after, Aram returned to the place where the Fairy Island was. And unexpectedly Yggdra also finally managed to track down the whereabouts of Pirika, who turned out to be in the Chain Chronicle. Time has passed again since Aram met Yangdra. Now Aram has left the Fairy Island and is now in a kingdom led by a beautiful nobleman who is also Yuri's acquaintance, named Asrina. Aram came to this kingdom with Fiona and the Furball beast found in the previous expedition, with the intention of wanting to form an alliance. In that kingdom Aram and the royal army devise a plan to resurrect the dragon with great power and want to use the dragon to conquer the King of Darkness. But unexpectedly, they were suddenly surprised by the arrival of a guard who informed that Juliana's group would start a big war with Suja's troops. Hearing this, parties from the Ashrina kingdom immediately intervened and tried to make the two parties reconcile by reaching an agreement in negotiations. Something surprising again happened again. Suddenly Irenaeus came in the middle of negotiations with the dark forces and immediately attacked both sides blindly. Getting such a sudden attack, finally Juliana and Shuza teamed up to destroy the army of darkness. On the other hand, Aram, who saw the incident, could not remain silent and chose to jump straight into the battlefield. While Fiona decides to go with Ashrina's subordinate, Farah, to carry out a previously designed plan to resurrect the dragon. The war continued until finally, the Fina succeeded in resurrecting the dragon, which turned out to be a furball figure that had been in the dark. Take it wherever it goes. The battle ends and is won by Aram, who cooperates with several other groups, including Melchior's subordinates who come to help. After the battle ended, Shuza also gave up the chronicle chain back into the hands of its owner, who was none other than Fina. While on the other hand, Juliana encounters Aram and decides to form an alliance with him to form an army of resistance against the King of Darkness. For Julia had now greatly admired and recognized the power of Aram to be able to destroy the King of Darkness. The next few days, Aram managed to gather a strong alliance, including the magicians. They planned to open the barrier of the kingdom of the King of Darkness, with the intention that the resistance forces could attack the kingdom that was hiding behind the black shadows. But that plan again had to be disrupted by the arrival of Bruckhart, and the battle could no longer be avoided. So that without realizing it, Fina was captured and taken by Bruckhart. While on the other hand, the plan of the Resistance Alliance to open the gate was finally successful. Many parties were involved in this attack attempt, starting with Juliana's group, Ashrina, Dust, and without exception Shuza, who came and joined the Great War. The war lasted long enough, until finally the war was won by Aram and all his allies. The King of Darkness was defeated, thanks to the help of the dragon and Yuri, whose condition returned to normal. The scene then moved. After being defeated by the troops and the King of Darkness, the world was finally at peace again. And the story ends here. What do you think about Chain Chronicle? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel by activating the bell to receive notifications for the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next video.